This is a disturbing memory from my childhood when I was around 7 or 8 years old. Normally, my mom would take my brother and me trick-or-treating. But this year, she dropped me off at my friend Sean's house after school. Sean, our friend Johnny, and I were supposed to go together. Johnny and Sean were a year older than me, and we had met while playing around the block. Both of them lived nearby. Sean's home life was always a little strange to me. His sister, who was about 20 years older, seemed like his primary caregiver. His house always smelled like cats, and his sister often had different men over. She was never particularly friendly to me, barely even acknowledging my presence. Sean's father was never around, and his mom, from what I understood, worked out of town. I had only met her a couple of times, but I never really figured out the whole situation. Anyway, that day, my mom left me at Sean's house, expecting that his mom would take us trick-or-treating. After saying goodbye to my mom, I entered Sean's house where Johnny was already waiting. We all had pillowcases ready to fill with candy. Soon after, I realized neither Sean's mom nor his sister were coming with us. At my age, I felt a bit uneasy knowing we would be unsupervised, but at the same time, there was a thrill about having more freedom. I knew my mom wouldn't have approved, though. We set off into the neighborhood, knocking on doors. Several people asked us where our parents were, and Johnny always answered with the same lie. My mom's up ahead with my sister. It worked every time. It was a Friday, and we didn't start until around 5 p.m. But with no school the next day, we planned to stay out until our pillowcases were overflowing with candy. After a couple of hours, we took a break at Sean's house, heating up frozen pizzas and watching Halloween specials on Nickelodeon. I remember feeling jealous of the freedom Sean seemed to have in his home. No parents telling him what to do. Looking back, though, I realize how lucky I was to grow up in a strict, supportive household. Around 8 p.m., after Johnny was picked up by his mom, Sean and I decided to head out again. By now, it was dark, and there were fewer trick-or-treaters around. We wandered into streets further from Sean's house, eager to find houses we hadn't visited yet. While going door to door, we noticed a man pushing a stroller a few houses behind us. At first, we thought he was a dad out with his young child. As we moved on, he kept getting closer. Eventually, he caught up and asked, "How's the trick-or-treating going, boys?" We responded with a quick good, and he offered us the rest of his candy, saying he didn't give much away because he had been out trick-or-treating with his daughter. His offer of a bag full of candy seemed too good to resist. Sean, excited, asked what kinds of candy he had, and the man said he had a variety of treats at his house. He pointed ahead and said his house was just a short walk away. Eager for more candy, we followed him. As we walked, the man asked us all sorts of questions, what part of the neighborhood we were from, where we went to school. His stroller was covered, and he would occasionally lean in and speak in a high-pitched voice to his daughter while smiling at us. I didn't feel right about it, but I was too young to know what to do. Sean, being older, led the way. We arrived at the man's house. He unlocked the door, pushed the stroller inside, and invited us in. Sean entered first and I followed. The man promised to grab the candy, so I asked if we could leave the door open. He hesitated but agreed. As he left to get the candy, Sean approached the stroller, which was in the middle of the living room. I watched him lift the cover, and his expression immediately changed. He looked horrified. He hurried back to me, whispering, "Let's go." Without a second thought, we ran out the door as fast as we could, dragging our heavy pillowcases behind us. As we got outside, a woman called out to us, "Excuse me." She was a neighbor and had seen us enter the house. She asked if we knew the man, and Sean quickly spilled everything. The offer of candy, the stroller, and the fake baby inside it. I felt chills when I realized that the baby was fake all along. The woman told us that the man didn't have any children, and she offered to drive us home. Although getting into a stranger's car right after that incident felt strange, we were too scared to refuse. When we got home, the woman spoke to my mom, explaining what had happened. I told her every detail, and she was both furious and horrified. She called the police right away. I never found out what happened after that night. My parents shielded me from the details, and my mom forbade me from going to Sean's house again. Our friendship never really recovered. Looking back, I realize how close we came to something terrible happening that night. Even now, the memory makes my skin crawl.